Hey guys, Arun Krani from Kid with the Camera. If you're watching this video, I'm assuming you're learning Windows Powershell on Windows 10 or 11. Make sure you watch the Terminal Command Line Basics video above in the playlist. And if you already have, let's get started. The first, most basic command in the terminal will take only 2 keystrokes of your time, and that is list. Just type ls, hit enter, and you'll see every single file and folder that is in your current directory in the terminal. That is the most basic form I use ls in, just to get a scope of what's in my directory. However, like most commands, ls has the structure of command and parameters. And these parameters can come in 2 forms, either flags or just string value. Those flags usually start with 1 or 2 hyphens, and you'll most likely be using 1 hyphen most of the time while using these flags. And they're basically used to tell the command to do something special in the post-processing of that command. And those string values can be either in response to that flag or giving extra information to the command itself, and these just further refine that post-processing of the command. So let's take an example. Say you only wanted to see the files that ended with .mp3. In other words, it has the mp3 extension, meaning it's an mp3 file. What would you type? Well, you would type ls, which is the command, and then you would type star.mp3. That star.mp3 is a string value that is telling the list command to only select any strings that end with the mp3. And how does that work? The star.mp3, well, you can think of it as a filter. So that star is a special character in these filters, which means any character, any amount of characters, you know, A through Z, 1 through 9, anything can be in place of that star. And after the star is .mp3, and that's basically saying you can have any characters before the .mp3, but then it has to end at .mp3. If you were to flip this, say, instead of putting ls star.mp3, you would put ls .mp3 star. File name would start with .mp3 and then any character afterwards. Take a guess at what a star rick star rick star would mean in the context of the ls command. It would basically mean that the file name has to have the word Rick in it. It can have anything before, anything after, but Rick is in the middle, which means it has to have the word Rick somewhere in there. Let's take an example using flags. Example of a flag can be, what if you only wanted to see all the directories or folders within your directory in the terminal? A flag can be used to do this in Windows PowerShell. If you type ls-directory, like ls-directory with a capital D, it'll only list out all the folders in that directory. So keep in mind that it's not like I memorized all the flags for a certain command. I would only know by looking it up on Google, finding it on Stack Overflow or some other website like W3 Schools, that the -directory flag does that it only, if you just type ls-directory, it'll show you every directory in that in your terminal direct. And if you need to find any information on any command in the terminal in Windows PowerShell, you can type help and then the name of the command. So to find any more information on the list command, I would just type help space ls and it'll show me this huge manual. Once you're done looking through that, it can be kind of confusing to figure out how to get out of it. Just type q and you should be out of there really quickly. Let's go on to the next command. cd, or change directory in its full form, is another extremely basic and essential command in any command line application in general, because it allows you to navigate your storage. cd comes in the form of cd space and then your path name. If you just type cd and click enter, it'll send you to the root directory. The root directory is usually the directory in which you start your terminal application in. When you first open Windows PowerShell, it'll show you a directory on the right. You can assume that that is your root directory. The path is basically a string representation of a location in your computer. Say you were in your documents folder. There's a good chance that the path for that would be c:/user/ your username in your computer /document. So that would just be your full path name, and that's what it shows you on the left side of the terminal, just to the left of where you're typing all these commands. Typing in cd and then a directory name will change the terminal from your current active directory to the directory you just typed in. It's basically the equivalent of double-clicking a folder in the File Explorer app on Windows. So most modern command line applications like Windows PowerShell also contain an autocomplete feature, in which if you start typing a directory name, like if you type cd and then d or f or something, and you hit the tab key on your keyboard, it'll attempt to autocomplete and guess what you were trying to type there. So if you were trying to go into documents and you type cd do and then you hit tab, it would try to autocomplete into documents. And so it just makes it much easier and faster instead of typing out a whole directory name when you're changing a directory or something like that. So as you can probably imagine, going up one directory at a time can get pretty tedious really quickly, because imagine typing documents and then cd documents enter, cd some other folder enter over and over again. So that's why there's a way to chain these directories together in a single change directory command. You type cd name of your directory, hit the / key, and then start typing the name of the next directory. You can just daisy chain all these together, so you just hit enter and it goes straight to the directory that you wanted it to. Also keep in mind that any directory names with spaces, if you had a directory named scanned documents, for example, with a space between scanned and documents, you would have to surround them with quotes. Single or double doesn't really matter too much, just because the change directory command or the command line application has no way of differentiating whether you're giving one parameter or two separate parameters without those quotes. Going up directories is what we know so far. But what about going down? If you go to documents and scan documents, how do you get back to documents? And there's some special characters that you can use in a Windows PowerShell. The special character for the parent directory, or the directory before the one that you're currently in, is ... literally just 2 periods. So if you just type cd ... you will immediately go back to your parent directory. And yes, these can be daisy chained as well. So just for your information, the symbol dot and then / also represents your current directory. We can go in and out of all the directories in our computer, but we can't really do much to them. Well, that's about to change with the ability to create files from the terminal. PowerShell is a very self-explanatory command, new -item. So typing new -item, capital N, capital I, with a hyphen in the middle, and then the file name will create a new file with that file name. Now take care to add an extension to the file name. So if you wanted to create a text file, you would type new -item, say hello.txt, and you would now have a new file in that directory called hello.txt. If you decide not to put the extension, 2 things can happen. And I found this to be very erratic behavior, so I wouldn't recommend it. It'll either make a file without an extension, which just creates a whole another line of problems for you to solve, or it can create a directory. Because there's such erratic behavior, it's really hard to make a directory in PowerShell with the new -item command. There is another command called make directory, surprise surprise, which you call by doing mkdir and then the name of the directory. Creating files is great, but how do we open those files directly from PowerShell without having to go into File Explorer and double-clicking on the file? There are a few ways to do this in PowerShell, but the simplest way is to literally just type the name of the file. And once you type the name of the file, it'll open in the default application for that file type. So if you type hello.txt, it'll open in Notepad. If you type hello.java, it'll open in VS Code or whatever, maybe even Notepad if that is the default application. So if you want even more control for which application you want the file to open in, you can literally just type the name of the application before typing the name of the file. So if you want to open your file in Notepad for whatever reason, you just type Notepad, the name of the file. So if I wanted to open hello.py, a Python file in Notepad, I would type Notepad, hello.py, and it would promptly open up in the Notepad app in Windows 10 or 11 or whatever. Not all applications might have the functionality of being able to be called from the terminal, but you can quickly check what you have to call. For example, VS Code, you don't type VS Code in the name of the file, you just type code. How to find this? Well, go to your start menu and type in the name of the application you want to open the file in. Hit open file location. Chances are it's going to take you to a shortcut in the File Explorer, so you're going to right click on that shortcut and again say open file location. And you're going to see a little something.exe file, and basically that file name without the .exe is what you're going to type in to the terminal to open in that specific application. Now there is a way to add this functionality for applications that don't have it by default. This is a really easy way to check. Just type in the name and it'll tell you. If it errors out, that means the application doesn't support opening from the terminal. Now there is a way to add that functionality for probably a majority of applications, but that is a whole nother topic for a whole nother video. So opening multiple files at a time is not something I've been able to figure out. Oh wait, someone just answered my Stack Overflow question. And the way to open multiple files at a time is just type the name of the file, type a semicolon right after the name, no spaces, space, and then type the name of the next file, and so on and so on. It'll just open all those files at once. There you go, that's how to open files in Windows PowerShell. So making and opening files is great, but there's just one function missing. Ripping up that application and throwing it in the incinerator. I meant file. Anyways, I'm not kidding, this command can be very destructive as there is no undo button. So if you're paranoid about some really important file like me, just go into File Explorer and hit delete. It's much easier. You can just hit a quick Control Z and it's back. But if you really want to take the risk, there's the rm command. So if you just type rm and then the file name, it'll promptly remove that file. Now, if you want to remove a directory, things get a little more complicated. It depends whether that directory is empty or if it has files in it. If it's empty, you can use the remove directory command, rmdir, and that'll just remove the directory if it's empty. But if it's not empty, either find out from the rm or rmdir command, both will work. When you type rm and then a directory name that has other files or directories in it, PowerShell will give you a little message. Are you sure you want to remove this directory? And it gives you a bunch of options. Just type in whatever letter corresponds to the option you want to choose. Now, if you want to be super daring and you're absolutely sure that you want to delete this whole thing and never see it again, you can use the recursion flag, which you can just use by typing rm-r, the name of the directory, and it won't ask you for a prompt. It'll just completely remove everything, chop it off the block, it's gone. You're not going to see it again. But I would not do this because you can easily pretty much delete your entire computer if you take the wrong move. So they're the core basics of the terminal. Now, here's some other just commands that I don't use as often because either the commands are much easier to do in the File Explorer itself. First one, cp to copy a file from one place to another. Cp origin file / directory, and then destination, and both that origin and destination have to be paths. For the destination directory, if it's in a different folder altogether, make sure to include the entire path. And same for the first one if it's not exactly in the folder that you're looking for. The next is the move command, which can be used using mv, standing for move. That is almost the same as copy. Move origin, directory or path name, destination path name, and you're good. And this move command can also be used to rename items. If you say, if you have hello.txt in your current directory, move hello.txt to hello2.txt. It'll just rename that hello.txt to hello2.txt. And you can use this despite there being a rename item command in PowerShell. The command cat, C-A-T, I'm not sure what this stands for, maybe concatenate or something like that, can be used to display the contents of a file. And I would only use this for text files like Python, Java, or just TXT files, not for an image. I'll put it up on the screen what happens if you try to do this on an image. It just shows a bunch of nonsensical text. When programming, it's great to know how to run files from the terminal just so you're not super dependent on the IDE or integrated development environment that you use to type all your code up. Searching up any language on Google, how to run Rust or C++ or whatever will give a pretty quick answer, but here I'm just going to show you how to run Python and Java. So running a Python file is really simple. Just make a quick Python script and you type Python, the name of the file, so python hello.py, and it'll just run that file. Java gets a little more complicated because Java is a two-step process for running one of their files. If you create a file, say hello.java, the first command you're going to type is java c hello.java. So that compiles all the code and turns it into something the computer can understand. After that, if you do a quick ls, you'll see that there's a hello.class file or whatever .class file in your directory, and that is the file that you're going to run. After you do that java c, you just type java and then the name of the file without the .class, basically without the extension. So you would type java hello and then you hit enter and it will run that for you. So this has been the basics of Windows PowerShell. Because I'm a master procrastinator, I'm probably not going to finish up the macOS video very soon. So this has been Windows PowerShell Basics with Kid with Camera. See you next time. Also, all this footage might be out of focus, but you already know that since you've been watching the whole video. Also, if you really like PowerShell and you have a Mac, you can actually install PowerShell on macOS and go check Microsoft's website for how to do that. Kid with Camera out.